the a-hole for requiring that guests change clothes before they sit on my furniture? This is a throwaway. I'm 20M and I live alone. I'm a very neat person. My mother kept our house pristine growing up, and I helped her for as long as I can remember. I recently moved out into my own place, and something that I started thinking about was how many germs from outside we track into our houses. I always change out my clothes as soon as I get home, but whenever I have guests, they don't. And I have no idea where they've been or what their clothes have been exposed to. About a month ago, I bought a bunch of those clear disposable raincoats, and I started telling people who I invited over that they could bring a change of fresh clothes to change into or wear one of the coats before they sit on my furniture. I also offer to wash the clothes that they change out of if they want to. My girlfriend doesn't have a problem with any of this and just started leaving clothes at my place. My mom and my sister have also been okay with this new rule, but I invited a friend over yesterday. I told them about the clothes thing before they came, and when they got here, they were surprised that I actually enforced it and said, "You've got to be messing with me." I told them no, I'm serious, and then they left. They haven't been answering my messages either. I was talking to my mom about it today, and she said it was pretty excessive and unreasonable to expect everybody to do. I disagree, but I'm kind of double guessing myself. Am I in the wrong here? You're the a-hole and you need therapy. I don't say that despairingly at all. I sincerely think you would benefit from professional help. You are the a-hole. You have OCD, my friend. Yes, there are germs out there, but the likelihood of them doing harm to you is near zero. This type of thing gets worse over time. Get help now. You're the a-hole. Your mom is right. It is excessive and unreasonable for you to expect people to change clothes when they come over, assuming you don't suffer from some sort of condition that makes you unusually susceptible to infection. I'm not a psychologist, but it sounds like you should consult one. I don't want to judge because this sounds like a potential mental health concern. You're the a-hole. Wow. Just wow. Words cannot describe how socially unaware this post is. You can go with the my house, my rules mentality, but don't expect any friends to visit ever. Who the hell regularly visits a friend with a change of clothes in hand? You are the a-hole. This is an unrealistic expectation. If you're this much of a germaphobe, 1, get help, and 2, don't have people over. I wouldn't be back or responding either. I would absolutely think you were joking if you told me that ahead of time. And then if you tried to enforce it, I would think you were batshit crazy. Am I the a-hole for telling my brother it's pathetic that he can't do the basics of what his wife did? I love my sister-in-law and brother. They have 2 kids, and my sister-in-law Rachel was kinda a stay-at-home mom. She worked from home part-time, but also took care of the kids and all the chores. I was over multiple times and the house was spotless. Really, I thought she was just extra cleaning when she had guests, but no. When I had my kid, she showed me her schedule. She would be up at 5 for meal prepping for the whole day, like she never stopped, and a lot of her tips helped me with my own home. Now, my brother lost his job, and it was decided that Rachel would go back to work full-time and he would stay at home. The kids are in kindergarten and 1st grade, and he has this on easy mode. I've been over to help sometimes since he just sucks at it. The house is always a mess. The kids are usually late to school. He asked me to drive them after the school talked to him. He doesn't cook it. It's just sad. He got in a huge argument with his wife since dinner wasn't done, and she had to make it. He was ranting about how it's unfair and that he's trying. I told him it's pathetic he can't do the basics of what his wife did. He has 8 hours free and can't keep the house clean. I told him she will divorce him if he doesn't stop being lazy and figure it out. He left after calling me a jerk, and my mom is now on me for what I said. Thank you for the mac and cheese recipes. What? Updates. I love my sister-in-law. My mom apologized to me. Rachel sent my mom what the kitchen and house looks like, the messages from the school, and apparently a text argument about how he shouldn't be doing this. She gave him 2 options: get his poop together or get out. I learned a lot more about the situation and learned he wasn't packing the kids' lunches the last 2 days. I think he just broke his marriage. Not the a-hole. She worked part-time and did it all. He has no job at all and can't even somewhat cut it? How the frick were the kids late? I mean, one time can always happen, but consistently? I think being a stay-at-home parent is hard, but with both kids going to school, he should have the time to do most of it. Not the a-hole. You're not wrong. Sure, it could have been put more elegantly, but sugarcoating wouldn't have made your point any less valid. This is his job now, and he is underperforming. Maybe this subpar work effort is why he lost his other job to begin with. Not the a-hole. I was prepared to call you an a-hole because waking up at 5 a.m. to keep everything sorted is absolutely insane. But that's not what she's asking for. She's asking for him to cook dinner and get the kids to school, and keep the house semi-clean. Then to go and complain to you about it shows no self-awareness. He needs to figure this out. These are the basics of being a parent and being an adult. You maybe could have said it nicer, but at worst, it was a justified a-hole move. Not the a-hole. My dad did everything when we were kids. All the cooking and cleaning and school runs, extracurricular activity runs, lunches, bath times, everything. Men are absolutely just as capable to do the things that are often left to women. For some reason, so many of them think they can't or shouldn't have to. Not the a-hole. Not too surprised by your mother's reaction. Mothers are often the cause of their adult sons being useless at adulting. Am I the a-hole for calling my daughter's father spineless and his girlfriend creepy over their name choice for their daughter? A little bit of context for you all. I ended up falling pregnant with my 10-year-old daughter during a drunken hookup with a friend in my mid-20s. Not the most glamorous or flattering truth, but it's the truth all the same. When we found out, we decided to keep the child and co-parent while remaining friends. We were never a couple, and we didn't want to be one either. 4 years ago, he began to date his long-term girlfriend, and they moved in together last year. She fell pregnant, and I've been supporting to them both as much as I could without crossing any lines. I've encouraged my daughter to help out whenever she's staying with them during the pregnancy, and to behave. I've also made it clear that I want the children to have a close relationship despite having different mothers. I've even said that if they were comfortable with it on nights, I have my daughter. If they ever want time alone, I'll babysit once they have the baby so my daughter can spend time with her sibling. All in all, I thought everything was great. And I was excited for my daughter to have a sibling as she's always wanted one, but I had no interest in having another child. 3 days ago, my friend and his girlfriend had a daughter. They asked me to bring my daughter to the hospital to meet her little sister yesterday, alongside others of the family. So I did exactly that, but when they introduced us to the baby, I was shocked. They'd used my daughter's name. She didn't seem to have any issues with this when she introduced the baby bold as brass. My friend seemed uncomfortable and wouldn't look at me directly. I asked them what they were playing at which point my friend's father said he'd take my daughter down to the cafeteria to get something to eat and left with her. My friend told me to calm down and not overreact, while his girlfriend told me she didn't see the issue and it was a pretty name. I asked them if they'd named the baby for my daughter, trying to understand the logic here, but his girlfriend said no, it was just a pretty name she liked. I then asked if they planned to use a nickname or a middle name when addressing to her on a daily basis, and her response that she didn't see a need for that. I told them they were being ridiculous and that they couldn't do this. I then told his girlfriend that I found this frankly creepy and told my friend he was being spineless if he was happy to go along with this. He tried to claim our daughter could use a nickname or something, but I shut that down immediately, asking why it was more reasonable for a girl who had used that name for a decade to shame her name compared to a baby who had no concept of what a name was yet. His girlfriend told me I was being a bitch talking to her like that after she just gave birth, and asked the nurses to remove me, saying I was being disruptive. Maybe my temper was running a little too hot though, and I was too harsh on her when she just gave birth. It's just so freaking weird. Edit, I'd also like to state, I know that what they want to name their child is their choice. They could have called her Dinosaur for all I care, but this is one name that should be off limits or adjusted. They even have the same surname as they have the same father. Something about it just felt malicious and deliberate, as if she's trying to replace my daughter, and for them to both spring it on us like that at the first meeting? No, that was weird. Not the a-hole. From the outside, it sure reads like she wants to replace her parents' affection for his daughter with his new baby. Of course it's creepy. Not the a-hole. They hid this for a reason. He was embarrassed for a reason. The same first and last name is going to cause both those girls a lifetime of issues, especially with the same father. I usually would have a bit more sympathy for a woman who just gave birth, but she seemed deliberately cold and cruel towards your daughter, her stepdaughter, to have done this. Not the a-hole. I suggest you look into changing your daughter's surname to your own surname, or at least suggest she can do it when she's old enough. So at least they won't have the same full name and she can get some distance from her creepy father. Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. This is ridiculous of them and will cause both girls issues with government paperwork for their whole lives going forward. They aren't doing the new baby any favors here. Am I the a-hole for how I, 37M, reacted to my son, 17M, coming out to me? It's been pointed out my title wording makes this post seem worse than it is. I apologize for that, as it wasn't my intention. So I've always known my son had an interest in men. He was slow on the pickup of incognito mode, and from the searches he made, I figured he was at least bi-curious, if that's the proper term for it, since he hit puberty. Well, last year he started bringing a boy around, and it was obvious they were dating, to the point I figured he knew I knew, and it wasn't a big deal to anyone. Well, apparently I was wrong. After school yesterday, he and his boyfriend came up to me and said there was something really important they needed to tell me. My son said that they were dating and had been for a year. Well, I was surprised that he wasn't aware I knew, and it was a bit thrown off. My mouth moved faster than my brain, and I said, well, that's pretty f***ing gay. That's so f***ed up. Oh my god. Now, I thought it was peak comedy, since it is in fact gay. However, I understand using the word gay in that way gives it a very negative undertone, hence the mouth faster than the brain comment. Now, my son and I are usually pretty edgy with our humor, this being fairly tame for the stuff we joke about. While probably not appropriate for the situation, it wasn't our norm for a conversation between us. However, he and his boyfriend were very upset and left. I'm probably the asshole, but I thought I would check and see if y'all had some advice on what I can say to fix it. He currently won't respond to my texts or calls. I did not expect this to gain so much traction. It's a bit intimidating, lol. I'm reading all the comments though. Anyway, here's a small update. He's at his grandparents' house, which I knew. He told them to tell me he'll be home tomorrow after school to talk. I'll update you all after the conversation. Thank you for your responses. I really appreciate it. You're the asshole for the wording. I won't lie, as someone who's been out and proud for years, that joke made me laugh my ass off. But your son needed support more than humor. In the grand scheme of things, I was expecting much worse from the title, so I think if you just apologize and explain that you meant it in a humorous way and that you fully accept him and his partner, you and your son will be fine. You're the a-hole, but I see what you're trying to do. I'm glad that from the sounds of it, your son has a very supportive parent in you. A lot of us don't, so for real props to you. But your son only had one chance at coming out to you. It's a big moment for him, and your response was to make a joke. I know you were trying to indicate that it wasn't a big deal to you in a bad sense, but I get why it was hurtful for your son and his boyfriend. Maybe apologizing and asking if you can have a second chance at acknowledging this moment for him would help turn it around. You're the funny asshole here. Trust me, in a very short space of time, you and your son will look back on the moment and laugh about it. Just give him time to simmer down, apologize, and explain you knew and thought it was very obvious, and it was just an unspoken understanding and no big deal made about it. And again, say sorry for not realizing he was yet at the place mentally about the situation that you were and obviously thought he was. Definitely you're the a-hole. They came to you for support and you tried to be funny about it without knowing the boyfriend's sense of humor. I would apologize ASAP and make sure your son and his BF know you accept and support them. Jokes like that are really only acceptable after you are 100% sure that they understand you support them. You should have acknowledged his feelings first, then asked to make a tasteless joke. Am I the a-hole for laughing at my housemate when he suggested I not shower on my period? I, 31F, live in a share house. One of the housemates, Jack M30, has never lived with a woman outside of his mother, but likes to say that he is aware of women's issues and calls himself a feminist. For instance, he doesn't agree with the saying no uterus, no opinion, because it's my job to be informed about any issues that could affect me if I become a father or husband, which is fine until it came to this issue. So like most biological women, I have periods. I, however, cannot use tampons or cups due to a condition called vaginismus. It's pads all the time for me. Yay. I know the shock, shower during this time. Wow. I prepare a new pad onto a clean pair of undies, shower as normal, dry myself off in the shower, and then step straight into the undies. And obviously check the bathroom for mess. Jack's never complained, nor has anyone else, so I figured my system was working. Cue today, and I can't shower for 48 hours due to a heart monitor test. I was jokingly complaining about how I was going to survive without my nightly shower, and Jack looked up confused and said, "How is this any different to when you're on your period?" I asked him what he meant, and he said, "Well, you can't shower on your period unless you use a tampon." And I laughed because I thought he was joking. He has shown before that he was at least semi-educated on women, which he got angry at. He said, "Wait, well, what do you do?" And I said slowly, "I shower." I wasn't getting it, I'm afraid. Jack said, "Without protecting my bathroom?" He does not own the house, and then went off. Apparently, my period is unhygienic. It can cause infection if left on the shower floor, and he was under the impression I hadn't been showering for a week when I had my period or used tampons. I said that due to reasons I can't use tampons, and he told me that I'm banned from showering when I'm on my period, which I laughed again, at which I did apologize for, and say, "I'm sorry for laughing, but the audacity of that statement." I told Jack he has no way of enforcing this, nor would I be sticking to this, and he said, "Fine, that every time you shower, you need to bleach the bathroom afterwards," to which I couldn't help but laugh again, apologizing but saying we're in a share house. That's not reasonable when other people need to shower or use the toilet, and considering I'm sure at least somebody else pees in the shower, is ridiculous to only enforce on me. I brought that up and he said, "Nobody does that. I've never heard of that in my life." So I just had to walk away. Jack's been complaining to the other housemates about this and saying that we need to watch out for me, and we all just think he's absurd for banning me. But a couple think that I should at least try and compromise, so I'm confused. Am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. I'm surprised he doesn't ask you to go into a special hut in your unclean time. Not the a-hole. He's more than welcome to bleach the tub right before he showers though, because he'll never know when you're on your period again. Keep him guessing as to whether you're menstruating or not, so he can bleach the tub every time he uses it. It's a win-win. He gets to have an uncontaminated shower, and everyone else gets a super disinfected and clean tub. The obvious solution is Jack doesn't use the shower when you have your period. He's the one with the problem. Sure, because not showering for a week on your period is the more hygienic thing to do. Info: are you the only person in the house that menstruates? I can't imagine others standing by while this unhinged rant took place. I'm sorry, he wants you to not shower for an entire week and doesn't consider that unhygienic? Makes zero sense. If he's so worried about it, he can wear shower shoes. Another option is to have one of those daily after shower sprays left in the shower that can easily be sprayed by anyone after each shower that he can buy. Or he himself can bleach or spray them before he showers. Definitely not the a-hole. Am I the a-hole for not letting my girlfriend eat the naan bread we ordered? My GF and I got takeout from an Indian restaurant we like and order from usually when our budget allows us. This place is really the only good Indian place anywhere near us, but is very pricey, and so we try to keep our order small. One entree for me, one entree for her, and a side of naan bread that we share. The thing is, the side of bread isn't very much, and the entree just isn't the same without it. So it seriously annoys me when she eats the bread without dipping it in her curry. It's such a waste of the little bread that we get. I told her this before, but she says it's not my concern how she eats her food. Except it is my concern because she is wasting a shared side. Whatever, I let it go each time. This time she didn't order curry like she usually does, she got biryani, rice and meat. So I was happy that I would get the bread to myself. While we were eating, she reaches over for the bread and eats a piece of it on its own. I got annoyed and moved the bread away from her and told her she doesn't need the bread since she isn't eating a curry and doesn't need bread, whereas I'm eating a curry, so I do need bread. Also that her entree comes with rice and she can eat that. She got offended and ended up threatening not to pay her share for the food next time. She also called me a greedy asshole and took her food and ate the rest in our bedroom. My friends are split. One of them says I'm in the right and it's too much carbs for one meal for her to have bread and rice. But the other friend essentially also called me a greedy asshole. It's been hours and she's ignoring me. Am I the a-hole? You are a gigantic a-hole. You don't get to decide for someone how they eat their food. If you are splitting the bill, she gets to eat some bread, regardless of if you think it's being wasted as eaten. Go say you're sorry before you're single. You're the a-hole. You're the a-hole. Do you know that naan, roti, and other Indian flatbreads are often eaten on their own? Just order some more and quit complaining. You're the a-hole 100%. Who gives a frick if she eats it without the curry or not? And too much carbs? So you and your friend are now trying to dictate your girlfriend's diet? I hope she gets out of there. I can only imagine how you are about everything else in your lives when this is such a small thing to react this negatively towards. So it seriously annoys me when she eats the bread without dipping it in her curry. It's such a waste of the little bread that we get. I told her this before, but says it's not my concern how she eats her food. Except it is my concern because she is wasting a shared side. Whatever, I let it go each time. How gracious of you to let it go that she enjoys her food differently than you enjoy your food. You're the a-hole. Some people don't deserve girlfriends, dude. Oh my god. Am I the a-hole for yelling at my nephews until they cried and had to leave? My son recently died. I have not moved his stuff other than keeping it clean. I usually leave the door to his room closed. I pick up and babysit my 2 nephews for around an hour on weekdays since their mom, my sister-in-law, gets off work too late to pick them up. They are 11 and 13. Usually they are well behaved and do their own thing or sometimes even help me with chores. On Friday, I was cooking a very pungent soup, so I aired the whole house out by opening all the windows and doors. I should have left my son's room closed in hindsight, but I think I opened it out of habit. When their mom went to pick up her kids, I went to get them and saw them messing around with my son's guitar. The older one was messing with the string screws while the younger one was plucking at the strings. I admittedly freaked out a lot and I raised my voice at them, which I have never done. I said, "What are you doing? Drop that right now. What are you even doing in this room? Get out. Never come in this room again." At that point, they started crying. I pulled the guitar away and their mother came in. She tried to mediate the situation and console them, but I told them all to get out of my house and they left. The guitar was thankfully okay and not scratched. Their mom called me later to talk and apologize on their behalf, but told me that she thinks that we should all have a sit down and apologize to each other. She told me that I really scared her boys and that although she thinks what I did was understandable, I overreacted in front of them. She told me that at the end of the day, they didn't really do anything harmful and that they deserve an apology from me too. I told her I do think I overreacted, but that I wasn't sorry because they could have broken my son's guitar. She told me that it's extremely cruel to ever raise your voice at children and that I should be the bigger person. Was I the a-hole for doing that? Nah. Your response was understandable. To an adult, not a kid. It sounds like your sister-in-law is really trying to mediate this and support you. I think you kind of would be the a-hole if you refused to sit down and explain to the boys why you yelled and why you'd rather them didn't go in the son's room. Not the a-hole for reacting as you did in the heat of the moment. But it doesn't sound like your nephews meant any harm or had it properly explained to them why your son's room was off limits. Your sister-in-law's advice seems really good to me. Sit down with your nephews and explain why you reacted as you did. And you're sorry you shouted at them, and in the future, even if the door of that room is open, they are not to ever go in without explicit and specific permission from you. You're the a-hole if you don't follow your sister-in-law's advice and sit down to talk it out with the kids. They sound like good kids who overstepped because they didn't understand the way you feel about your son's possessions. Your sister-in-law is being very kind about this, and I think her idea of a mutual apology is a good one. First off, I'm sorry for your loss, but I think you're the a-hole. Not for the yelling, but for refusing to sit down with your nephews and apologize to them for yelling at them for something they didn't know they were allowed to do. You're the a-hole. You did overreact. Your sister-in-law is correct that you do need to have a sit down and talk to them, explain your reaction. I don't know how well they knew your son and how close they were to him, but maybe that plays a part in it. Am I the a-hole for telling my daughter that life doesn't stop for others because hers isn't going well? I have 3 kids, and my daughter, 27F, hasn't had the best luck in her romantic life. She's gotten cheated on many times, and her previous relationships were unhealthy. I also believe she's in a toxic relationship with her current boyfriend. My nieces and nephews, along with my other kids, are all happily married, some starting their own families. It was my sister's birthday recently, and she and her husband had planned the trip for the family. She helped with expenses if needed, but for the most part, everyone paid for themselves. My daughter was the only one going by herself. We did things as a family, but there were times when we split up to do something with just our partners. So sometimes my daughter was by herself or basically being a third wheel. At the end of the trip, my daughter complained to me how she hated going on the trip, that she felt like it was a cruel joke that she was there by herself and that the others should not have show affection to their partners when she was around. This is not the first time she complained about something like this. She's done it after holidays and birthdays as well. I'll admit I'm tired of my daughter complaining about this, so I told her that just because her life isn't going well doesn't mean others will have to stop living theirs. She hasn't talked to me since, and that was almost 2 weeks ago. My husband is on my side, but I'm worried I'll lose my daughter. Am I the a-hole? Edit 1. She was allowed to bring a friend. Edit 2. My daughter isn't single, she has a boyfriend. Edit 3. Thank you for the responses. I didn't expect so many. I plan to try and reach out to my daughter and talk. Everybody sucks here. I don't have a lot of sympathy for her demanding people not showing any affection for each other in her presence, and a lot of what you say is valid. However, I don't understand how on a family vacation all the couples are going off and leaving her all on her own. That sounds wretched. And I can empathize with how sad it is to watch everyone else be stable and happy when that's not at all available to you. You can acknowledge the validity of her feelings while encouraging her to accept the right of others to be happy. You're the a-hole for this. There were times when we split up to do something with just our partners, so sometimes my daughter was by herself or basically being a third wheel. In my family, there are many single adults. We would never break it up so that all the partners were together and all the single adults left to their own. We wouldn't do it no matter how many single people were there, much less if there were just one single person. Family gatherings are just that. You can all break up to do things with only your partners at any other time. Everybody sucks here. Being single doesn't mean her life isn't going well. The family trip should be accommodating for everyone no matter their relationship status. Not the a-hole. Having fun is a choice. If I were in her shoes, I would have found something fun to do on my own while the couples were out. I'm 32 and I've been single for 5 years. All of my friends are in relationships or married. You learn to have fun anyway and learn to be your own best friend. I don't think what you said was cruel. It sounded like a truth she didn't want to hear. Hopefully she will go to therapy someday. Not saying there's anything wrong with her, just that everyone should go to therapy, and I started going around her age and it helped my attitude towards things a ton. Yeah, this was not a family trip. This was a group couples retreat. You're the a-hole. Daughter just can't articulate why she feels terrible, so she clings to the idea that she didn't like the affection. Yeah, you're not cool for that one. Am I the a-hole for agreeing with the school when they dress coded my daughter and not fighting it? This is about my youngest. I would like to start off saying the dress code is very reasonable, and the rule is don't see undergarments, and this affects the guys more than the girls. The pants not being held up by boxers are seen thing. I have 3 kids, and the older 2 have never been dress coded. Now my daughter came home, and she was in her gym clothes and she got dress coded. It came with a school email and a picture of the shirt. They took the picture after my daughter changed, and it was a swim top cover-up. It's sheer. This makes complete sense to me as why she was dress coded. She got a warning and that was that. Now my daughter and oldest daughter are pissed that I didn't stick up for her. My sister is now on my ass. The kids told her and they all think I'm a jerk. So outside opinions on this. Not the a-hole. I don't see anything to fight here. The rules aren't unreasonable. Your daughter wasn't wrongly accused of breaking them, and a punishment isn't going to have any long-term consequences on her education or well-being. You're not being a jerk. You're being a parent. Not the a-hole. Underwear covered is totally reasonable dress code, and there's not really anything to fight here. She broke the rule and was told, hey, don't do that. Parents alerted and asked to change clothes. All very appropriate and even-handed responses. Not the a-hole. Kids need to learn what type of clothes are appropriate for each situation. Like it or not, we still live in a society where your value is judged by appearance, especially professionally, and kids need to be taught that you can't just wear whatever you want to every situation and event. Not the a-hole. I wouldn't fight the school on this one, even if I did think it was right. This is one of those times my parents would be like, yeah, it's stupid, but I have to go to work tomorrow instead of fighting for your school. It's not exactly a hunger strike moment for us. Info. What exactly do they want you to stick up for? Her right to ignore the dress code? Hey everybody, thank you all so much for watching. Make sure to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and also, almost most importantly, turn on post notifications so you get notified every time this channel uploads. We post lots of cool subreddits, and I think you really, if you haven't subscribed yet, you should. Again, thank you all for watching. Have a wonderful day.